Now, before moving on, it would probably be a good idea to create a little HTML template that we can use for our project. Just tag along, I promise you it will only take a minute. Okay, first of all, we're going to bring a CSS file into our project from this gist over at GitHub. Now let's just download this gist and unpack it into our public HTML folder. Okay, there it is. Now we'll go inside of our application folder, into the views folder, and first of all we'll create a new folder called layouts. And inside of that layouts folder we'll create a new PHP file called layout.php. And this layout file will contain our HTML code. So with that open, I'll just paste in some boilerplate HTML5 code. And the first thing we need to do is set a title. We'll just set that to Ask Away for now. And then we'll go into the header and we'll need to add the CSS file that we just downloaded. Remember, it was called style.css. Okay, we're ready to set up our HTML. So we'll go into the body tag and create a div with a class of container. And inside of that, we'll need a header with a class of highlight. Then we'll also need a div to hold our main content and a footer just to finish it off. Let's just expand this and I'll set up the header first. We'll need a logo and that will be an h1 tag, and inside of that will be an anchor tag. And we'll just set the logo text to Ask Away. And also let's just make sure that it points to the home page. We'll just use CodeIgniter's site URL function for that, which will point to the web root. Now we do need some navigation as well, so let's just create a UL with a class of nav, and inside that we'll have some list items and anchor tags. I'll just copy that once. Now the first link will be to the home page, I think, so we'll just copy in that code again and say home here. And the second link will be to the questions page that we'll create just a little later on, and let's say questions listing, for instance, and maybe set the text to questions. Now this is a layout file, so what we're going to do in a minute is make sure that we load a subview here. So this will basically be the same for every page, only the subview specific to a certain page will be loaded here. So we'll just say load subview, and that way we make sure we won't forget. Let's just add a copy statement here. We'll pass in the current year and set the copyright owner to Ask Away. Now we do need a way to check this layout, so let's open up the welcome controller for that. And inside of our index method, we'll just get rid of all this and load a different view. Remember, we created a folder called layouts and our view was called layout. And let's just check that in the browser. And yeah, that looks like it's supposed to. As you can see, we'll be loading the subview here later on. So let's see if we can make that work as well. Let's just create a variable called data here. And that will be an array, and we'll just need to pass in a variable called subview, and that will be, well, let's just call that homepage. And let's load this data variable into our view as well. So now in the layout we have access to a variable called subview. Let's use that. Let's just strip out this text and make sure we load a view here. And what we need to do is pass in the subview variable that we just passed to the layout file. Now this should give us an error because the subview doesn't exist yet. And yep, there it is, an error was encountered, unable to load the requested file homepage.php. So let's just go back and create that inside of our views folder. We'll do new page PHP file and name it homepage. And inside we'll create an h2 tag and say hello from homepage. So just one final check, reload the page, and there you go. And by the way, this is a great way to set up your views, you know. If you have a layouts folder, you can cram that full of different layouts, because most of the times your web page in itself will be pretty generic and only certain areas or certain sections will have to be specific. And because you can load view files from within a view, you could also do things like separating your components into different view files, such as loading your navigation like so. Well, with our view files set up, it's time to plan our code, and we'll do that in the next video. I'll see you there.